we bring in former Netanyahu confidant, current Netanyahu confidant, Ambassador Dore Gold. Dore, so much has changed here in the 30, 40 years since you've been in Israel. It used to be that Arab armies were threatening Israel in the 70s and in the 80s. Now it's a very different threat that you're seeing. Is that something that you're going to talk to President Trump about, that he's going to be hearing about?
Well, of course, nobody can guarantee what the Middle East is going to look like in 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years. And anyone who pretends to know is making a huge mistake.
We learned that with the Arab Spring.
If there's one thing we learned from the Arab Spring, it's don't assume that what was there yesterday will be there tomorrow. And therefore, Israel needs to protect itself from all kinds of eventualities. The Iranians are now seeking to achieve territorial contiguity from the Persian Gulf all the way to the Mediterranean, through Iraq, through Syria, through Lebanon.
So where does Israel put its political capital during this visit? The president's on the ground for 26 hours here. Is the message to the president, hey, look, we really want to make a peace deal with the Palestinians? Is the message, Israel's under an existential threat? What is the takeaway?
I think it's very simple. Let's focus on two things. Number one, the Jordan Valley. The Jordan Valley has been the front line of Israel's defense since 1967. The Jordan Valley is something which Yitzhak Rabin, the man who started the whole Oslo peace process, warned in his last Knesset speech. Israel must retain the Jordan Valley in the widest sense of that term. So that's our front line. We're not giving up the Jordan Valley, and Israeli polls show 80% of the public wants to retain the Jordan Valley. And let me just one other point. Jerusalem. In an era in which holy sites are being blown up all over the Middle East, in Egypt, in Iraq, in Syria, we're going to turn over the holy sites of Western civilization to Mr. Abbas, to Hamas, or ISIS. Israel, and only Israel, will protect Jerusalem for all the great faiths. And I hope the U.S. administration understands that.
All right, so more on that very issue in terms of the holy sites and Christian persecution with Chris Mitchell in a minute. Back to this trip with President Trump. Okay, so this is a president who says he wants to make a deal. Deals require concessions by both sides. Is there anything that the Israelis are going to bring to the table that's going to be different, that is a new inducement, if you will, for a deal? What are the concession points?
Well, before we talk about Israeli concessions, let's ask ourselves one fundamental question. Do we have bridgeable differences between the parties?
So there's a possibility that there can't be a deal?
Well, I think there are deals that can be done. That's my personal view. But
wait, you think there's a deal? I just want to button this up. You think there's a deal that can be done that, in an intellectually honest sense, that the Palestinians would agree with as well? There's something out there that both sides, given their current positions, could reasonably agree to.
What many of us who have been involved in negotiations for more than 15 years have concluded is that a final status deal covering all the issues like Jerusalem, like security, like borders, is not in the cards right now.
Okay.
But more limited understandings can be reached that are important for the Palestinians and important for Israel. And that's what we should be aiming for.
Well, we've heard President Trump say he wants to make a deal, so we'll see if he settles for what you say, an interim deal, or keeps pushing. Ambassador, appreciate your time, sir. We know it's valuable.
My pleasure.
Thanks.